All right, so looks like we're taking another deep dive. This time, into the world of erectile dysfunction. We've got a whole stack of book excerpts here.
Oh, yeah.
And let me tell you,
It's a lot.
it goes way beyond just the usual medical advice. We're talking lifestyle tips, alternative approaches, even some
interesting stuff in there.
eyebrow-raising stuff for sure.
Yeah.
We're mainly focusing on this book. It's called Erectile Dysfunction, How to Get Rock-Solid Erections. And it doesn't shy away from anything.
It really doesn't.
But before we get into the more, shall we say, unconventional stuff,
Right.
we're here to help you kind of sift through all this information and figure out what's important for you, whether you're searching for solutions, trying to understand the causes, or just curious.
Just kind of curious about what's out there.
Yeah, just want to see what's out there. We've got you covered.
We've got you covered.
So the book kicks things off by defining ED, diving into the different causes.
Right.
And it makes this interesting distinction between physiological and psychological ED, which I think is a good place to start.
Definitely. That's where a lot of misconceptions come in, I think.
Right.
This book actually emphasizes that 80–90% of ED cases are physiological.
Wow.
So that means they're rooted in physical issues, not just in your head.
Okay, so not just what's going on
Not just your mind.
up here,
Yeah.
which honestly is probably a relief to hear for a lot of people, right? It's
Yeah.
like, oh, okay.
It takes the pressure off a little bit, I would think. It's not all on me, you know?
No.
And then it actually ties into another point the book makes, where it calls the penis a barometer for overall health.
Oh, that's an analogy I haven't heard before.
It's a good one, though, right?
So what do they mean by that?
Basically, the book's arguing that ED could be a warning sign of something more serious going on in the body, like heart disease or diabetes, you know? So it's like your body's trying to tell you something's off.
So if you're experiencing ED, it's definitely worth
Yeah, don't ignore it.
getting checked out by a doctor.
Absolutely. It could be a key to addressing some underlying health issues.
Okay, so we've talked about what ED is, why it's important to pay attention to. But what about the things that might be contributing to it? The book seems to point a big finger at lifestyle choices.
It does. It's a major theme throughout, I'd say. The usual suspects are all there.
Right.
Smoking,
Right.
excessive alcohol, drug abuse, obesity.
It doesn't just, like, list them out.
Right.
It actually goes into detail about how these things impact, erectile function. Like, do you know that smokers are twice as likely to experience ED?
Yeah, it's those specific details that really drive it home.
Yeah.
It's one thing to know that smoking's bad for you, but it's
Right.
another to understand how it actually affects your body at that level.
Yeah.
And the book explains that nicotine constricts blood vessels. And, well, you need good blood flow for things to work properly.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that affect your body, let's talk about food. Friend or foe when it comes to ED?
Well, the book suggests it can be both, right?
Oh, interesting.
It really stresses the impact of diet
Okay.
on erectile health,
Oh.
both positive and negative.
Okay. So what should we be loading up on?
So lots of fresh fruits and vegetables for starters. It also mentions garlic, onions, and even spicy foods as being beneficial. Apparently, they can all help with blood flow.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But I guess too much spice could backfire.
Yeah, I think so. The book does mention that overdoing it can lead to stomach problems,
Right.
which probably wouldn't put you in a very romantic mood.
Probably not.
So moderation is key, right?
Yeah, always.
But what about the foods to avoid? The book is pretty clear that a diet high in fat is a big no-no.
Yeah.
It can clog arteries and impede blood flow, which, like we said,
Right, yeah.
crucial.
But there's one thing the book mentions that I found really surprising, and that's the link between excess folic acid and prostate cancer.
Oh, yeah, that's an interesting one.
Right.
We usually think of folic acid as being good for us.
Yeah, exactly.
But apparently, too much of it can be harmful, especially for prostate health.
Wow.
So balance is key.
Yeah. Now, I know a lot of people are curious about herbal supplements, and this book kind of dives right into that world.
Oh, yeah. There's a whole section on these intriguing herbs like ginkgo biloba, saw palmetto extract,
Oh, wow.
and Panax ginseng.
They sound like they belong in, like, magic potion or something.
Right.
Yeah, totally.
Like you said, intriguing.
But it's important to note, the book does include this big disclaimer.
Oh, yeah.
The FDA does not endorse these supplements.
Right.
So definitely talk to your doctor
Get a good idea.
before experimenting.
Safety first.
Safety first, exactly. So along with those herbal remedies, the book spends a good chunk of time talking about exercise and yoga.
Yeah.
Which I mean, makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Exercise is good for overall health.
Yeah.
But how does it specifically target ED?
Well, the book kind of draws this connection between exercise and better blood flow,
Right.
stronger pelvic muscles,
Uh-huh.
and even reduced stress, which all contribute to, healthier erections.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It even gets specific and recommends Kegel exercises
Oh, yeah.
to strengthen the pelvic muscles.
Yeah,
I'm guessing a lot of listeners are going to be Googling those later.
probably. Yeah, I think so.
And then there's yoga,
Yeah.
which takes this more holistic approach, working on the body and the mind.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I'm intrigued by the yoga connection
Uh-huh.
because we usually think of it as just, stretching and relaxing.
Yeah.
How can that help with ED?
Yeah, that's a great question. The book suggests that yoga's focus on breath work, mindfulness, and certain poses can actually improve circulation,
Okay.
reduce stress,
Right.
and really enhance your overall well-being.
Yeah.
All of which can have a positive impact on sexual function.
So it's not just about physical fitness, it's also mental and emotional well-being.
It's all connected.
Why?
Right. It's a whole body approach to addressing ED.
And speaking of the body, let's get to a topic that might be a bit sensitive, but definitely deserves attention. The prostate.
Uh-huh.
This book dedicates a whole chapter to this little gland and its big role in ED.
Right. It's not exactly dinner table conversation.
No, but the book doesn't shy away from it at all.
Not at all.
So what are we talking about here? What does the book recommend?
Well, some familiar themes pop up again, diet and exercise.
Okay.
But then it gets into some, shall we say, more hands-on techniques.
Yes, the prostate massage section.
That's right.
This is where things get a little eyebrow-raising.
Yeah, to say the least.
So the book claims that prostate massage can not only be pleasurable, but also can reduce the urge to masturbate. Now, that's a claim I'm sure a lot of listeners are going to want to hear more about.
Yeah, we'll have to save those juicy details for part 2 of this deep dive.
We will definitely get into that.
Yes, we will.
But before we go there, let's talk about another topic that's often whispered about but rarely discussed openly.
Yeah.
The impact of pornography on sexual health. The elephant in the bedroom.
The elephant in the bedroom.
And this book tackles it head on, even though it can be a bit controversial.
Yeah.
It really does. It dedicates a whole chapter to exploring the relationship between porn and ED.
Mm-hmm.
And it argues that frequent porn use can lead to unrealistic expectations.
Yeah, I see that.
Desensitization and difficulty connecting with real-life partners.
It's like anything else.
Yeah.
Too much of a good thing can be bad.
Exactly.
It's all about balance.
So the idea that the book puts forward is that constant exposure to highly stylized, often unrealistic portrayals of sex in porn.
Yeah.
It can skew our perceptions of what's normal.
Totally.
And that can create this disconnect between fantasy and reality.
Yeah.
And this disconnect can manifest in the bedroom.
Absolutely.
So the book highlights examples like unrealistic expectations about penis size,
Yeah.
performance anxiety, even difficulty achieving arousal
Yeah, that makes sense.
with a real-life partner because of desensitization to the visual stimuli. So it's not about demonizing porn,
Right.
but about being mindful
Yeah.
of its potential impact.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, what about those who aren't necessarily looking for a medical fix for ED? This book actually offers a whole range of ways to enjoy sex despite ED.
Oh, that's great.
It's like a buffet
Yeah.
of alternative approaches to intimacy.
Absolutely.
And it's quite the spread, let me tell you. Mutual masturbation,
Yes.
sex toys, sexting, phone sex,
Oh, okay.
video sex, oral sex,
That's a lot.
even BDSM.
Okay.
So even if you're struggling with ED,
Yeah.
you can still have a fulfilling and satisfying sex life.
Absolutely. I think that's a really important message.
Yeah.
It's about focusing on pleasure and connection and intimacy in all of its diverse forms.
Yeah, exactly. Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Okay.
let's touch on the medical treatments that the book covers.
All right.
If someone is seeking a medical route, what are their options?
So the book goes through a variety of treatments.
Okay.
From medications like Viagra to penile injections, MUSC, testosterone therapy, and even shockwave therapy.
It's amazing how many options are available.
It really is.
Like, it's really,
It speaks to how seriously ED is being taken in the medical field.
yeah.
Like, there's a growing understanding of its complexities and a real commitment to finding solutions that work for individuals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's take one of those treatments. Penile injections.
Right.
and highlight a key detail for the book.
Okay, so penile injections can be very effective,
Yeah.
but they come with a risk of priapism.
Priapism. And just to remind everyone, what is priapism?
Priapism is an erection that lasts for more than 4 hours.
Oh, okay. That sounds less than ideal.
Yeah, to say the least. It's a potentially serious side effect.
Yeah.
And it highlights the importance of working closely with a doctor and following their instructions.
Right. So no DIY penile injections.
Definitely not.
Leave it to the professionals.
All right, that brings us to the end of part 1 of our deep dive into the world of ED.
We've covered a lot of ground, from understanding the causes and contributors to exploring lifestyle changes.
Yeah.
And even dipping our toes into medical treatments.
Mm-hmm.
So the key takeaway so far is that ED is a complex issue.
Absolutely.
With multiple factors at play. It's not a one-size-fits-all situation.
Right.
But with the right information and some exploration, you can find what works for you.
Definitely.
And remember, you're not alone in this journey. ED is incredibly common, and it's treatable.
It is.
In fact, the book busts the myth that it's just an old man problem. It can affect young people, too.
Absolutely. It's a human experience, not an age-specific one.
We'll be back in part 2 to delve deeper into those alternative approaches to intimacy, as well as explore the world of prostate massage in more detail.
Looking forward to it.
But before we go, we'll leave you with this thought. We've talked about a lot of different approaches, but one thing the book didn't mention is the role of communication.
Yeah.
In relationships. When navigating ED, how can open dialogue with your partner help you navigate the challenges of ED? Something to ponder until next time.
Absolutely. Welcome back to our deep dive into erectile dysfunction solutions.
We left off last time with a bit of a cliffhanger.
Oh, that's right.
That prostate massage section in the book.
Yeah, definitely a topic that needs its own space.
Yeah, it's not exactly something you bring up at a dinner party.
Right.
But the book really goes into detail about it. And some of the claims it makes about the benefits are pretty surprising.
It's a lot to unpack.
To say the least. So before we get into specifics, I think it's important to emphasize that we are not medical professionals.
Right.
And this is just a summary of what the book says.
Exactly. Always consult a doctor for personalized advice.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So let's unpack what the book has to say about prostate massage.
All right.
It dedicates a significant portion to this, claiming it can be both pleasurable and therapeutic. I think a lot of people hearing that are probably raising an eyebrow right now.
Understandably so.
It's not exactly mainstream conversation.
No.
So how does the book explain this whole prostate massage thing? What's the logic behind it?
So it frames it as a way to stimulate the prostate gland, which can lead to a couple of supposed benefits.
Okay, let's break those down. Benefit number 1, as the book claims, is pleasure.
Right. It suggests that stimulating the prostate can lead to very intense orgasms even without a traditional erection.
Now, that's a claim that's sure to pique some interest.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, but let's move on to benefit number 2.
Okay.
The therapeutic aspect.
All right.
The book argues that prostate massage can help with a range of issues, from reducing inflammation to improving urinary flow.
Yeah, makes sense.
So it's not just about the pleasure, but potentially addressing underlying prostate health concerns.
Exactly.
It even goes as far as to say that regular prostate massage can help prevent prostate cancer, though there's no strong scientific evidence to support this claim.
Right. Important to note that.
Yeah, it's important to note that this is just one perspective.
Right.
And the medical community's views on prostate massage are varied.
Absolutely. Always do your research.
Yeah.
And consult with a healthcare professional.
Absolutely. Now, I know some listeners were probably curious about the how of prostate massage.
Yeah, the logistics.
The book actually provides a step-by-step guide.
It does.
It covers everything from hygiene to technique to potential risks. We won't go into all the nitty-gritty details here. You can explore that in the book itself.
Yeah.
But let's touch on a couple of key points.
Okay, sounds good.
So the book really stresses the importance of cleanliness and lubrication.
Yeah, makes sense.
We're talking about a sensitive area here.
Yeah, sure.
And then it goes into different techniques using either fingers or specialized toys designed for prostate stimulation. It emphasizes that finding the right technique and pressure is key to maximizing pleasure and minimizing discomfort.
Absolutely. It's about exploring your body safely.
Yeah.
And finding what works for you.
Okay, so we've spent some time on prostate massage.
Yeah.
But let's move on. Remember that buffet of alternative intimacy approaches we talked about earlier?
The one with all the options beyond traditional intercourse.
Exactly. Because not everyone is looking for a medical fix.
Right.
And exploring these different ways to connect intimately can be incredibly empowering.
I agree.
It's about expanding the definition of what sex can be and embracing a wider spectrum of pleasure and intimacy.
For sure.
So let's dive into that buffet,
Okay.
shall we?
Let's do it.
First up, mutual masturbation. The book presents this as a way to rebuild intimacy and learn each other's preferences without the pressure of achieving an erection.
I think that's a good point. It takes the pressure off.
Yeah, exactly.
And allows you to focus on, like, the connection and the pleasure.
Oh. And it can be as simple or as elaborate as you want it to be, right?
Exactly.
From touching and watching each other to using toys and incorporating fantasies. The key is finding what feels good for both partners.
Yeah.
And creating a safe and playful space for exploration.
Absolutely. Communication is key.
Next on the menu, sex toys.
Oh, yeah.
The book calls them a great way to keep sex in your lives.
I like that.
And it emphasizes the sheer variety available.
Right.
Catering to all sorts of desires and preferences.
It's true. The options are pretty much endless.
And the great thing is they can be used for solo pleasure or incorporated into partnered intimacy.
Yeah, whatever you're into.
Exactly. Now let's get a little more tech savvy.
Okay.
The book also explores the world of sexting and phone sex.
Ah.
It presents them as ways to maintain a connection, even when you're not physically together.
Right.
Which can be especially helpful for couples who are long distance.
Yeah, or have busy schedules.
Yeah, exactly. Or have busy schedules.
It happens.
And it can also be a fun way to, like, build anticipation.
Yeah.
And explore fantasies.
For sure.
Without the pressure of physical performance.
Definitely. Takes the pressure off.
And for those who want a more visual experience, there's video sex.
Right.
Which takes the intimacy of phone sex to the next level.
Yeah, makes it a little more real.
It's as close to being there in person as you can get digitally.
Yeah.
And the book even suggests incorporating toys and role play into video sex to make it even more interactive and exciting.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Now, of course, we can't forget a classic that never goes out of style.
Let's hear it.
Oral sex.
Ah, yes.
The book devotes a surprisingly comprehensive section to this.
It does.
It's all about focusing on pleasure and exploring different techniques to satisfy your partner.
I like it.
And it gets pretty detailed.
Oh, really?
Covering everything from clitoral stimulation to analingus.
Wow, they really go there.
They do. The book emphasizes the importance of communication, finding what feels good for both partners, and taking your time to savor the experience.
Absolutely. Now, this next one might be a bit more adventurous for some. BDSM.
Yeah, this is where things get a little interesting.
The book explores how this can be a fulfilling alternative for those struggling with ED.
It highlights the fact that BDSM can involve a range of activities that don't require an erection.
Right.
From sensual domination to power play to role-playing.
Interesting.
And it emphasizes the importance of consent.
Yes, very important.
Communication and safety within BDSM.
Couldn't agree more.
Absolutely. It's crucial to establish boundaries, negotiate limits, and ensure both partners are comfortable and enjoying the experience.
Absolutely.
The book also touches on other options like tantric sex and caressa.
Oh, interesting.
Which focus on prolonging pleasure and building intimacy without the need for orgasm. So it's really about expanding the definition of what a fulfilling sex life can look like.
Exactly. It's about exploring options.
Yeah.
Communicating with your partner and finding what brings you joy and connection.
Okay, we've sampled quite a few dishes from that alternative intimacy buffet.
I'm full.
But now let's shift gears back to medical treatments.
Okay.
We briefly touched on them earlier, but let's dive a little deeper.
Sounds good. And remember, we're just summarizing what the book says. Always consult a doctor for personalized advice.
Right. So for those seeking a medical route, the book presents a range of options.
Yeah.
Starting with medications like Viagra.
Viagra is probably the most well-known ED medication.
Yeah.
It works by increasing blood flow to the penis, allowing for an erection.
And it's generally effective. But like all medications, it can have side effects.
Of course.
The book mentions headaches, flushing, and indigestion as potential side effects of Viagra. Now, what about those penile injections we talked about earlier? I imagine they sound a bit intimidating.
Yeah, they can be. But they're often very effective for those who don't respond well to oral medications.
But as we mentioned, there's that risk of priapism.
Right.
Which is definitely something to be aware of.
Yeah, for sure.
And the book stresses the importance of proper training and supervision when using penile injections.
Makes sense.
So, once again, no DIY injections.
Definitely not.
Oh, what about MUSE? That was another treatment in the book.
MUSE stands for Medicated Urethral System for Erections.
Okay.
It involves inserting a small pellet into the urethra, which releases medication that helps achieve an erection.
I'm not going to lie, that sounds a bit uncomfortable.
It can be for some people.
Yeah.
And the book notes that it's not as effective as other treatments and can have side effects like burning and pain.
Okay, moving on to testosterone therapy. What's the rationale behind that?
Well, the book explains that testosterone is a key hormone for sexual function, and low testosterone levels can contribute to ED.
So testosterone therapy aims to boost those levels back up.
Exactly. And it can be delivered through injections, patches, or gels.
But again, potential side effects to consider.
Right. The book mentions acne, mood swings, and sleep apnea.
Okay. Last but not least, shockwave therapy.
Oh, yeah. This one sounds pretty high-tech.
It is.
It involves using low-intensity sound waves to stimulate blood vessel growth in the penis.
So it's like a workout for your blood vessels.
Kind of, yeah.
The idea is that by improving blood flow, shockwave therapy can help with achieving and maintaining erections.
That's the idea.
What does the book say about its effectiveness?
It's still a relatively new treatment,
Yeah.
but early studies have shown some promising results.
Sounds like there's a lot of potential there.
Definitely an area of ongoing research.
Yeah.
And we might see it becoming more widely available in the future.
Now, alongside those medical treatments, does the book mention any natural approaches?
It does. It talks about L-arginine, which is an amino acid that can help improve blood flow.
So like a natural Viagra.
In a way, it's thought to work by increasing nitric oxide production, which relaxes blood vessels.
And any other natural remedies?
It also mentions acupuncture,
Okay.
which is a traditional Chinese medicine technique that involves inserting thin needles into specific points on the body.
And how does acupuncture supposedly help with ED?
The book suggests that it can improve blood flow and reduce stress,
Right.
both of which can contribute to healthier erections.
It's amazing how many different approaches there are
It is.
to addressing this issue.
It really speaks to the complexity of ED
Yeah.
and the importance of finding a solution that works for the individual.
All right, listeners, that wraps up part 2 of our deep dive.
Wow.
We've explored prostate massage in detail,
Yeah, we did.
sampled that alternative intimacy buffet,
That was fun.
and delved into a range of medical and natural treatments.
Quite a spread.
So the key takeaway here is that there's no one-size-fits-all solution.
Right.
It's about exploring options, communicating with your partner,
Yeah,
and finding what feels right for you.
for sure.
And remember, ED is incredibly common and treatable.
It is.
It doesn't have to define you
Right.
or your relationships.
Absolutely.
We'll be back for part 3 to wrap things up
Looking forward to it.
and talk about the emotional and psychological aspects of ED. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into erectile dysfunction solutions.
We've covered a lot of ground, haven't we?
We really have.
Yeah.
Everything from lifestyle changes and alternative approaches to a whole array of medical treatments.
Yep. And I think it's safe to say we've all learned a thing or two about the prostate.
Oh, for sure. Definitely a topic that sparks some interesting conversation.
Yeah, lots to think about there.
But before we wrap up this deep dive,
Right.
we need to address something we haven't talked about as much.
Yeah. What's that?
The elephant in the room,
Okay.
or rather, the elephant in the mind.
Oh, I see. You're talking about the psychological and emotional side of ED,
Exactly.
which is, yeah, often overlooked.
We focus so much on the physical side of things.
Right. The nuts and bolts.
But this book also touches on how ED can impact a man's confidence, his relationships, his overall well-being.
It can really mess with your head.
It really can. And the book actually dedicates a whole chapter to this,
Oh, wow.
focusing on confidence and misconceptions surrounding ED.
I think that's so important.
It is. And it does a great job of debunking some of those common myths,
Right. Like what?
like the myth that ED is a sign of weakness or that it means you're less of a man.
Oh, yeah. Those are tough ones to shake.
The book emphasizes that ED is incredibly common
It is.
and treatable. It's a medical condition, not a character flaw.
Exactly.
And it can stem from a variety of factors,
Like?
stress, anxiety, relationship issues, underlying health conditions.
It's not always a simple equation.
Not at all. So the first step is to let go of the shame and self-blame.
Easier said than done, I know.
It is. But the book offers some practical tips for building confidence.
Okay. Like what?
and addressing those emotional challenges that come with ED.
Yeah, it's important to have some tools to deal with that.
It encourages open communication with your partner,
Oh, that's huge.
which is huge.
Yeah.
And it also suggests seeking professional help,
Yeah, makes sense.
maybe from a therapist or counselor.
That can make a world of difference.
And just as important, the book emphasizes practicing self-compassion,
That's a good one.
treating yourself with kindness and understanding. Because it's so easy to get caught in a spiral of negative self-talk.
Oh, yeah, totally.
But it's crucial to remember that you're not alone in this.
Absolutely.
There are resources available to help you navigate this.
That's good to hear. So I guess it's really about taking a holistic approach to addressing ED, right?
It is.
Not just focusing on the physical symptoms.
Exactly. You know, as we've been talking about all of this,
Yeah.
it makes me think back to something we mentioned in the previous parts. Communication in relationships when navigating ED.
Oh, right. Yeah. That's so important.
It is. Open and honest communication with your partner is absolutely crucial. Creating a safe space to share your feelings, your concerns, your desires.
It can be tough to talk about.
It can.
But I imagine it's important to remember that your partner's probably experiencing their own emotions around this as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's not just you going through this.
Right. So it's about approaching it as a team, working together to find solutions that work for both of you.
I like that.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
And communication isn't just about talking, right?
No, definitely not.
It's also about listening, empathizing, and supporting each other through the challenges.
Yeah, being there for each other.
Strengthening that bond as a couple and navigating this journey together.
That's what it's all about.
All right, we've reached the end of our deep dive.
Wow, time flies.
It really does. We've explored a vast amount of information about erectile dysfunction, from understanding the causes to exploring a whole spectrum of solutions.
We've covered everything from lifestyle changes and herbal remedies to alternative intimacy approaches and medical interventions.
And of course, we delved into the psychological and emotional aspects, which are so important.
Yeah, can't forget about those.
The key takeaway from all of this is that ED is a complex issue
Right.
with multiple facets, but it's treatable and manageable. It doesn't have to define you or your relationships.
I think that's a really empowering message.
It is. With the right information, some exploration, and open communication, you can find a path that leads to a fulfilling and satisfying sex life.
Absolutely.
And beyond all the treatments and techniques,
Yeah.
remember that intimacy is ultimately about connection, pleasure, and shared experiences.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
It's about embracing vulnerability,
Yeah.
communicating honestly,
Yeah.
and finding ways to celebrate each other's bodies and desires.
That's beautiful.
And never forget, you're not alone on this journey.
Right. There's support out there.
There's a wealth of resources available, from medical professionals to therapists to online communities.
So don't be afraid to reach out.
So keep exploring, keep communicating, and keep the spark alive in your relationships.
That's great advice.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.